Now, from Into Tomorrow, this is an ITTV special report.
IFA, as I mentioned, celebrating its 50th edition this year, remembering many years of tech innovation. This show, very rich in tech history. And our first guest this hour to help kick off this week's broadcast and open up the way for the next 3 hours of his exhibitors to join us is the CEO of Messe Berlin, organization responsible for bringing IFA to you and many other shows throughout the year that we're not here for. Maybe we should be on a couple of them. But it's Raimund Hosch. Raimund, welcome once again back into tomorrow. How are you, sir?
Yeah, welcome, Dave. Great feeling if a show like IFA is running so successfully.
It is, and growing dramatically. We've talked on the last couple of weeks' worth of shows that this particular trade show for consumer electronics and appliances has grown this year some 22% more exhibitors, for example.
That's right.
That says a lot about the industry being pretty healthy and us consumers having a lot of options.
They have a lot of options. And especially the home appliance industry is getting more and more emotional. What they were presenting here at IFA, it's fantastic with all those cooking shows. It's very amazing.
That's true. The excitement level 3 years ago was here as well when you first introduced major appliances, because you guys for a lot of years have realized, and then the industry did, I think, after a while, listening to you finally, that it's the same buyers. You know, we as consumers are looking for the big screen TV and an MP3 player and digital cameras and all the goodies, but we also need refrigerators and washers and the rest of it.
Yeah, but you know, it changed a little bit in Germany. I just told you that 10 years ago, when we talked about the home appliance industry, I explained them that my wife is deciding what we buy.
Yeah,
but
she's
it has
making
changed
the decisions.
completely. You know what has changed? The men are now the people who decide what kind of home appliance we will have.
Isn't that interesting?
They're competing with each other. Like the one have a Porsche, the other Mercedes, but they now have, what kind of kitchen do you have? So that's a new question.
And isn't that funny? Because I think, without sounding sexist, in years past, most of the guys have said, whatever the wife wants in the kitchen, that's fine,
that's right.
as long as she lets me have my big plasma. You know, and things have turned dramatically in that sense. Certainly a lot of folks are making decisions collectively, even as a family, but a lot of times the wife approval factor enters in very appropriately.
It's very effective, especially in my family. When I think about my two boys,
Yeah, you have two teenage boys. We were talking before we went on the air about how you have a media day at home. And I think this is fascinating for a lot of folks in our audience, especially parents listening, that might want to have some of your tips of what you're doing for your teenage boys.
Some kind of tough negotiations with them, 12 and 15-year-old boys. If you think about two alpha tigers, and my wife were leading the negotiations with them to have a media-free day between Monday and Friday. So when they go to school and they will come back at home, not sitting, no internet, no PC, no Xbox, no PlayStation, no TV.
Wow.
So only the mobile phone can be switched on.
Really? So, but probably no texting or anything, just some simple phone calls if they need to communicate. But no TV, no internet. I think a lot of parents listening think that their kids could not survive.
Only one day a week.
Yeah, it's only one day. They probably get a lot of homework done that one day.
Yeah, they got a lot of homework, but on the other side, well, we have to increase their allowance.
Really? Because when you mentioned negotiations and how your wife handled the negotiations, I'm thinking, wait a minute, they're your kids. What's to negotiate? But good point. They have chores. They have things they're supposed to do to help around the house. And then you negotiate. Well, fine, we're going to have to increase those allowances a little bit.
But do you know what they're doing on the media-free day? They're going to the media market and buying new games.
With their increased allowance.
For instance, yeah.
Well, at least they're getting out, right?
Yeah.
And you also mentioned they are playing more sports. I mean, there's a day here that forces them to do something other than play with electronics.
Yeah, but they have understood. They have to go out and see there's a real life and a real nature. They're playing soccer, they're playing golf, so they have to do the training lessons. And that's another kind of experience. and they're starting reading books again and something like that, and that's very interesting.
Well, this is good for other parents and upcoming parents. You know, Chris will have a 14-year-old daughter with his new marriage coming up in a few months. Maybe he could learn something from that. Mandy ought to be watching this interview and go, no, please, no media day. I'll keep my grades up. You know, negotiating, right? It's all about negotiating. Okay. I noticed, speaking of electronics and devices and so forth, what are your favorite tech devices? We notice you carry an iPhone 4, so apparently you like that Apple product. And among other things, what's your personal favorite type of product?
Now, that time, what I find very interesting is in the morning when I'm getting up, I'm putting on my iPad and reading all the newspapers on the iPad.
Very
so I
good.
can have different newspapers on the iPad, and I see all the brand news, not only from IFA and IFA,
of course,
but all the sports news, and then
and you don't get ink on your fingers because you're just scrolling on your iPad.
You can scroll and split it up and zoom it up what you want to read, so I can read sometimes without my glasses.
Very handy.
Yeah.
See, that's electronics
That's
helping you in your everyday life. I like that.
That's fine, yeah.
Well, the excitement of this IFA, the 50th edition, we talk about rich in tech history. In our remaining few seconds, what has you most excited about this particular IFA this year?
I think it's a 3D dimension of television, and what I found out is that it's good for the industry because we need larger screens to get in all those 3D techniques and be live in those new events. I think it would be a great success for the industry.
A lot of your exhibitors here at IFA this year are showing some smaller devices for 3D, but you're right. In order to immerse yourself in a game, sporting event, certainly leading the drive for 3D, you really need a big set.
Yeah, really
you got to get involved. Raimund, always a pleasure to chat with you, and thanks for having us every year these last 7-8 years, because there's so much excitement. That's why we added a third week. So we're going to clear the way now and start talking with more of your exhibitors over the rest of these 3 hours on today's show.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dave.
Our pleasure. And of course, messe-berlin.de for what Raimund and his team. He's the CEO of Messe Berlin. They do several other shows, like 27 other shows, I believe, during the year of all kinds. Check out what they are involved in. Maybe you and your company should be involved with them. And, of course, IFA-Berlin.com, IFA-Berlin.com for more information. IntoTomorrow.com will link you to all of our guests. Don't go away. More from Berlin, Germany, and the 50th edition of IFA. I'm Dave Graveline on the Advanced Media Network.